This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys, as always, for listening. Before I get started today, I want to make sure I remind you guys to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop our latest stuff. If you could please, as well, give us a 5-star rating. Write us a review. It'd be very appreciated, very helpful. I want to see what you guys like, what you guys don't like, ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. And if you're on social media, we are also on social media, so you can find us there: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. See if we can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. I don't think I mentioned my name, so I mean, you guys probably know me by now. But if you don't, my name is Chris Blades, and let's get right into this. So we're going to start off with Cam. It finally happened. I mean, it's something that had been in the works for a couple of days now. Seemed like it was just a matter of time before it officially went down, and now it is officially official. Cam Newton has been released by the Carolina Panthers. He was released earlier today, I'm recording this on Tuesday, so earlier Tuesday. You guys are hearing this Wednesday, but yeah, Cam Newton officially released by the Panthers. And it, like I said, it was a move that wasn't that surprising. Once you bring in a new coach, new offensive coordinator, there's a chance that they're going to want to do some new things on offense. So whether that means new players, new schemes, whatever. It was, like I said, change was bound to happen. And also, in Cam's situation, he's a guy coming off of a couple of injuries with the foot and the shoulder. So it was hard to assume, it's hard to project going forward what level of play he will be at. And I guess in a team with the Panthers that seems to be, it's hard to say for certain because no one really says they're rebuilding. It just kind of happens. I mean, very few teams would be like, I would be like, yes, we are a rebuilding team. And though the Panthers have kind of like hinted at that, they're trying to get draft picks. They're trying to, like I said, they're cutting Cam Newton. But then they signed Teddy Bridgewater, so it's like it's like, are they really tanking? Like, we don't really know. For certain. I mean, they let their best corner walk, James Bradbury. But then, like I said, they went out and signed Robbie Anderson earlier today, though some of that may be more of a link to Matt Rule than anything else. But yes, I'm saying. So they're clearly moving on from at least, not necessarily rebuilding, but they're at least moving on from the last era, the Ron Rivera, Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly, Greg Olsen era of Panthers football is no more. They're moving into the next generation of Panthers football, whatever that looks like, whatever that may be. But yeah, so with that, and obviously after they signed Teddy, it was, like I said, a matter of time. But now Cam Newton is free, and the weird thing is with that is like, where does he go? Because like right now, especially like having released him again today, or like I said, Tuesday, as opposed to like earlier in the offseason or even like last week during free agency, like most spots are filled, at least in terms of teams in need of a quarterback. Like, it doesn't sound like the Panthers are going to want to bring him in, which, I mean, we talked about in the last episode, they very well may be tanking for Trevor Lawrence without actually saying it. But that's a thing they may be doing, so there's no need there. Teams like the Bengals and the Dolphins are probably going to draft new quarterbacks, so what's the point of going there at least as for Cam, like, why would they go out and sign Cam if it seems like they're just going to draft their potential quarterback of the future? Who else? Like I said, Bears' job's filled now. They traded for Cam, and they traded for Nick Foles. Alrighty, though. I mean, it seems as if they're kind of over and done with Mitch to a degree, so maybe now that Cam Newton's free, if you didn't want to trade for him, then maybe you could just sign him and have Nick Foles and him compete it out. But then again, they gave, like, with the way Nick Foles' contract set up, I don't really foresee that as being a potential backup contract. Though I guess, in fairness, that's what it was for a lot of the season last year in Jacksonville. But I don't think they traded for him to be the backup, and I also don't think they traded for him to be in competition with another free agent. Now, so, I mean, we'll see what the Bears do, but I don't think that's going to happen. Chargers could make some semblance of sense, though. It sounds like they're cool with Tyrod, but again, anything that you would want from Tyrod in terms of like the mobility and stuff like that, Cam can do, and obviously can do it better. Though, have to see how the injuries hold up. Apparently, he did a physical in Atlanta, I believe, either earlier this week or last week. So, apparently everything checks out, he's fine, but again, no one will really know, because he's not going to be seeing these guys on the field anytime soon. So that's kind of probably the biggest concern, on top of all other things, just that the fact that these teams won't be able to see him, like, work him out, any of that stuff. And like I said, with that, you're taking on a level of risk due to the fact that you're going in there basically blind on what Cam Newton is. Obviously, you have the reports from whatever physical he took, but outside of that, you kind of just, like I said, flying blind. You don't, and I guess it's probably part of the reason why people were afraid to trade for him. Just because how can you trade for a guy when his health is uncertain and then you can't see him work out or give him your own sort of test to make sure that he's up to his standard you want him to be at. It doesn't. That's illogical, in my opinion. It's just like that was never that. No team's gonna give up anything of value in terms of draft picks or players or whatever for a quarterback they don't know about. And then obviously, I mean, granted, the Panthers did release him for nothing, but if they were going to trade him, I don't think they were going to trade him for a 7th round pick. Because if that was the case, I imagine he would have been somewhere. But yeah, so now Cam Newton is on the streets. He's looking for a new home, and it is kind of interesting, kind of just like the way in which he has now been viewed around the league, like because of all the injuries. Because I mean, this was the guy who 2015 was the MVP, led the Panthers to the Super Bowl. Obviously, they lost, but again, still got there. That's further than a lot of quarterbacks can say they've gotten a team over the course of their career. Has had up and down years before then and after then. That was one of the big things with him as a starter. Just that one season the Panthers would be good, then they'd be bad, or not bad, but like average. Then go back to being good, then average, and obviously they peaked in I think they went 15-1 that year. And that's obviously that was the best. And then that's the thing. So if you get the best or one of the best versions of Cam, you have a team that can compete for a Super Bowl. But if you get the Cam that has the shoulder problems or the foot problems or something, then now you're looking at a 5-6 win team. So it's just unfortunate. But yeah, it's just like it's weird because many people, I don't want to say many people, but as we saw with the Bears, a team was willing to trade for a guy in Nick Foles who has never started, I believe. I think we talked about it on a previous podcast, but I'm pretty sure the numbers. He's never started more than 13 games in a season. Obviously, he's coming off his own injury, though. Again, I think it was clavicle, collarbone, so like those things, those usually don't have like lingering effects, though. And maybe they're more susceptible to be broken. Kind of, I think like Romo broke it a couple times, or at least I think he broke it more than once. Same thing. I know Aaron Rodgers broke it once, but I don't know if he broke it again. But yeah, no, it's just maybe that can be more susceptible to injury now that it's already happened. But it's just, like I said, it's just how Cam is now viewed around the league with all the injuries and stuff. And I guess the style of play, many people believe it will finally catch up to him. Obviously, because when you have a guy that big, you want to be able to use that size. But eventually, at the quarterback position, you can't use that size all the time. It's not what they're built to do. Quarterbacks are, obviously, they're going to take hits. It's football, so you can't do anything about that. But they're not designed to run over and defensive backs and linebackers on a consistent basis the way that Cam was early in his career. So it's fair to question whether or not this kind of stuff will catch up to him. But again, like I'm saying, a team is willing to trade a fourth for Cam. I mean, not Cam, for Nick Foles, who has a lower ceiling and his own injury history. And then the Panthers have to cut Cam for nothing. Just an interesting turn of events for a former MVP. Normally those guys don't just get tossed to the side by the team that had them just quite like that. And then obviously, like I said, the Panthers decided that Teddy Bridgewater was the better option in the short term. I think they only gave him a 3-year deal, so it's not like he's going to be the quarterback for the next 10 years there. Though I guess he could be, but that's not like necessarily their plan. But it's interesting because I mean, it's just like I said, it's the end of an era for that team. It was arguably one of, if not, no, I don't want to say the, because you got like Julius Peppers, Luke Kuechly, Steve Smith, and then maybe some other people from back in the day. So I don't know the whole Panthers history, but he's at very least one of the best players ever. And again, he's gone from the team at, I think he's like 30, 31, something like that. So it's not even like it's not like it's like a Tom Brady situation where it's just like you've been there 20 years now, they're moving on because you're old. Like Cam Newton's literally only. He's 30. He's going to turn 31 in May. And now he's on the market. Like I said, not something you would expect to see. But again, I mean, he posted on Instagram in that weird font that he likes to type in for whatever reason. I don't even know what. I really do wonder what you'd have to search up to find that font. Because I've never seen anyone else use it but him, or as people that are mocking the way he types. Never seen it before him. So I'm like, I don't even know if you would go in to look for that, but that's neither here nor is it there. But yeah, so like I said, and I mean, and if you look back on his time, they're obviously like the same. He had the MVP at the Super Bowl, number 1 overall pick, so he didn't win a Super Bowl, but getting there, at least, that's pretty decent for a number 1 pick. Obviously, if you look back at some of the number 1 picks over the last like 15 or so years, a lot of them haven't really lived up to anywhere close to what Cam has, so that's, like I said, that's good for him, but many people will, and you probably definitely can argue the fact that up until the last few years, obviously when he was hurt, Carolina kind of wasted him to a degree. I mean, now they have, well, I guess after signing Robbie Anderson, they drafted DJ Moore. They have Curtis Samuel, who can be a solid contributor from a receiver position, kind of a little bit of a gadget guy. Obviously, you have McCaffrey. So they have better options than they've had for most of Cam's career. Obviously, I figure out what to do with the tight end position with Greg Olsen gone. But most of his career, what he had, like Steve Smith, and then they let him go for whatever reason. And then it was just a bunch of nothing. I think what the team he made the Super Bowl with, the two best receivers were like Ted Ginn and like Philly Brown. So again, not exactly Pro Bowlers. So yeah, I think it's just, I mean, obviously not a Panthers fan, so it doesn't hurt me as much. But like the whole Cam's whole tenure with when Carolina, when you look back on it, is gonna be like kind of weird because like he did not live up to the hype, but also like he didn't get the most out of what he maybe could have done, and they didn't get the most out of him. The same way we're gonna be looking back on like the Saints potentially, or like the Packers potentially, or maybe even the Falcons in their own division, just like guys that had good quarterbacks for a long time, but then didn't really do much with it. Though, I mean, again, some of that's has to do with playing in the same era as Tom Brady. It is what it is, and also like some of them kind of had the middle/end of Peyton Manning too, so that kind of ties in there. But it's just there's a lot of quarterbacks we're going to look back on, and we're like, why didn't that team have more success? And then there'll be a myriad of reasons for why. Saints, bad defenses, Falcons, just beating the Falcons. Because they've had offensive weapons. Matt Ryan's whole time there just haven't been able to consistently put it together. The Packers really haven't, since the Super Bowl team, haven't really done a consistently good job of getting Aaron Rodgers' weapons. I mean, he had, like I said, Jordy Nelson, Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, then moved on to Devontae Adams. And then that's kind of it. Tried the Jimmy Graham thing. That didn't work. Had Jared Cook there for a little bit. That was like, alright, had a nice catch in the Cowboys playoff game. But yeah, just like, there's a lot of quarterbacks that we're gonna look back on their tenures with their careers. I mean, their tenures with their teams and be like, that was weird, wasn't it? Like, why didn't the team have more success? And unfortunately, Cam and the Panthers are going to be one of those teams we're going to look back and be like, what? Like, why didn't they do better? Like, why didn't they? Obviously, he won MVP, so that's that. But why didn't the team make it to Super Bowl more than once? I think they didn't even make it to an NFC Championship game. I don't think. If they did, it was only one other time. Like, it's not like they were consistently in the NFC Championship game. Like, why didn't they try to put better pieces around him? It's just a weird thing. But hey, maybe it'd be the best for both sides. Splitting up now. Obviously, it's better to do it too early than too late. So maybe, like I said, it'll be beneficial for him, get a fresh start. It'll be beneficial for the Panthers, get their fresh start. And I guess, like I said, we'll keep our eyes out to see where Cam ends up, because I would imagine he's going to be somewhere, or maybe he'll just sit out the year. I saw somebody, either I think it was Tweet or like one of the ESPN shows, maybe it talked about it, but just the possibility of him maybe sitting out and then just like taking time to get his body healthy, because again, a former MVP that's still not that old, he's only 31, should not be taking a backup job. Like, if he's not starting somewhere, there's no reason for him to be on a team. So I think he could sit out, and then like someone's gonna get hurt. It's just bound to happen. Then the team can sign him halfway through the season. Though again, it's not that easy to do. But again, that's better, because I don't see him, if he's not at least competing for the starting spot. Like, there's no reason for him to go anywhere. Like I say, he's only 30. He's going to be 31. Former MVP, former number one pick. It's still not that, like I said, not that old. Like, being a backup at this point in his career doesn't really seem that feasible to me. We'll see what he wants to do, but yeah, I would almost feel disrespected if I was him, if there's someone offering me a backup job at this point. So we'll see if he ends up with the team, or maybe, like I said, he just sits out and waits his turn until, like I said, someone's going to get hurt. That's just the way the sport works, and then wait for that team to come crawling. Maybe for the best. But yeah, we'll see how that plays out. So after the break, we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the NFL, obviously, because that's the only thing going on. But talk about them kind of giving out some guidelines to teams for the whole, like, how to handle the whole coronavirus situation. Also, the thought that the idea that they floated out about postponing the draft, which, nope, timeout, we can't have that. I'm sorry, we need something to look forward to, and the draft's really it at this point, so they can't. They don't plan on canceling that, but there was a chance that it was going to happen. So we'll talk about what happened there and how it ended up staying on after the break. So stay tuned for that.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
NFL, much like basically every other place of business in the country right now, honestly in the world, is having to give their employees guidelines for how to manage the workplace and all that stuff. So the NFL sent out a memo, and this is from ESPN. So within that memo, the NFL will implement, I should say, league-wide workplace and operational mandates Wednesday night that largely reflect those put in place by local and state governments across the country as protections against the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. In the memo sent to teams Tuesday night, Commissioner Roger Goodell said the rules were meant to ensure that all clubs operate on a level playing field and that the NFL continues to conduct itself in a responsible way at this time. Among the directives to take effect Wednesday at 6 p.m. local time, according to the memo, all club facilities will remain closed to all personnel. That was subject to the following exceptions. Employees such as athletic trainers or physicians who are providing ongoing medical treatments, employees such as the director of facilities, security personnel, or independent contractors necessary to maintain the physical security of the facility and its contents, employees such as the technology personnel necessary to maintain the security of the club's IT network, and other things. Goodell said that the directives have been reviewed and endorsed by the NFL Competition Committee and will remain in effect until further notice. During this time, clubs are free to conduct all normal business operations, including signing players, evaluating draft-eligible prospects, selling tickets, and other activities to prepare for the 2020 season. The league will assess whether to continue under the directives on April 8th in consultation with medical experts and public health authorities. The challenges we face are not unique. Now, Goodell said many other businesses and individuals throughout the country are going through similar things, and he wanted to assure everyone that the NFL is well positioned to meet those operational challenges as we prepare to offer our fans and country an outstanding 2020 NFL season. So, like I said, it's not necessarily shocking that that the NFL have to put out a league-wide mandate, because again, if you look around in the country, depending on where you're living, different states are implementing different rules and regulations on what businesses can be open, or how often, or if at all, people can leave their house, and if they can't leave their house, where can they go, stuff like that. Like, there isn't like a whole, I mean, obviously there's been suggestions, but then if you've been paying attention to the news at all recently, if you've been on social media or whatever, you've heard that there's a chance that in a couple weeks, this could all be lifted nationally, at least statewide. That probably won't happen, especially in states like New York, New Jersey, California. Some of the states where maybe I don't know how bad it is still in Washington, but yeah, some of the states where like the numbers are still pretty high and they continue to grow day by day as more people can get tested and stuff. They probably won't do the opening, but again, people have talked about how closing all these businesses, bad for the stock market, blah blah blah, the economy. I'm not an well, it was not an I can't think of the word. I'm not an economist. I think that's how you pronounce it. But you know what I mean. I'm not somebody that studies the economy or understands that kind of stuff, or stock market in a high degree. So we're not going to discuss that here. But it's just like, obviously it's been a talking point on social media and other things. And it sounds as if there's a chance that we're going to open things back up for to try to, like I said, to try to help boost the stock market and the economy, which short term may very well do that, but long term I don't see that as being a positive. But again, we'll see what happens with that, and hopefully that doesn't happen, because basically every doctor that's spoken says that that's not a good idea. But again, the president does what he wants, so if he wants it, it's going to happen. But yeah, so like I was saying, along with that, and if I have to give a league-wide mandate, just like I said, everybody's on the same playing field, because if certain states have restrictions and certain states don't, then different people would be able to operate in different ways, and obviously that gives unfair advantages to certain teams and certain organizations, and that's just, like I said, they can't have this. So they just want everybody on a level playing field, and that's what these directives are for. And also, like I said, it makes sense just for the health and safety of all their players and staff and personnel and stuff like that. You want to try to do your part to help, like the buzz phrase, to flatten the curve. And again, it only makes sense for the NFL to do their part in making sure that they don't help increase the number of cases in the various states. Like I said, if no one else is allowed outside or to conduct business, and especially since the NFL season isn't starting right now, and it's a ways away from starting at all, because like I said, it doesn't sound like any of the all-season stuff, so we'll see if it's good by July so we can get training camp going and stuff. You don't get the season pushed back, like I said. If this season gets pushed back, that's really that and the draft are really all I'm looking forward to at this point, because who knows when anything else will be able to start back up for certain, so we got to hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, so like I said, the NFL doing their part to be like the rest of the country, so I give them credit for that. But as I mentioned, there was another article that came out today that the NFL itself wants the draft in April to go on as scheduled, despite many GMs recommending otherwise. So, again, this is from ESPN. The NFL plans to stick with the original April 23rd to 25th schedule for the NFL for this year's draft, despite a recommendation from the league general manager's subcommittee to Commissioner Roger Goodell on Tuesday that it be moved back due to the COVID-19 pandemic. General managers are concerned that in this current environment with off-season activities and some team facilities closed, which, I mean, now all of them will be, there won't be enough time for player physicals, gathering psychological testing, getting further verified information about the players, and some teams having to conduct the draft from home. The subcommittee voted 6-1 to approve the recommendation. These sources have said it would be a competitive disadvantage to have some teams in their training facility during the draft, while teams in California, New Jersey, and other hard-hitting areas will be locked down and unable to be in their team buildings. The league still has time to make further and final decisions, but the consensus among owners in league office is for the draft to go on as scheduled. There are different accounts of the way the Tuesday vote went down. Some saying it was unanimous, others saying 6-1. I mean, that's really not that big of a difference. But whatever. Apparently, regardless, the general managers really want this to get pushed back, which understandably so. And I think a lot of owners aren't sold on keeping it on. I think a lot of owners aren't sold on keeping it on schedule. One league source said, of course, the power owners are calling the shots. Plus, actually, the fact that April is going to be the toughest month with the virus is really poor. It's a really poor look. So I think we talked about this already, just about how teams are going to have to scout differently for this draft, just because, like I said, there's no pre-draft visits, no pro days, can't have any sort of workouts. All the scouting you've done from I guess not even the beginning of the college football season, maybe a little bit before that, through the Senior Bowl and the Combine, that's all you got. And like I said, not some teams, all the teams, that's not all they use. Knowing, like I said, you have guys come into your building, you meet with them, you can talk with them further, you maybe work them out, put them through some drills to see either A, if they've improved on from the drafts and maybe some things you try to coach them up on, or B, does some different things to see how they fit into your own system. But now they can't do that. Plus, like I said, they can't really get into their buildings anymore. So, it's like now everybody's doing everything from home, much like, again, the rest of the country. But it's like, if that's the case, then it's then these scouts are kind of going about this with metaphorically one hand tied behind their back, and they don't have their full allotment of resources to be able to conduct as thorough of an analysis they normally would be able to on the draft process. So from the GM perspective, I understand why they want to push it back, because again, they're the ones with their jobs on the line. The owners don't. I mean, obviously, you want to have a good team, but at the end of the day, if the draft goes poorly, the owners aren't the ones at fault. It's the GMs. So if I'm a GM, I would 100% be on board pushing this back, just because, again, I want to put myself in the best position possible to be successful, and having this in the current climate that we're in may not lend itself to my sort of success. Again, me speaking as a GM in this hypothetical. Like, I want to make sure I do the best I can, and then thus make my team successful, and thus make my bosses happy, and thus I won't get fired. But if I don't have that chance, because again, I'm restricted on what I can do or how I can access these players, and then it's like, hold on, let's push this back. And plus, like, I mean, the part about the April is a good point, just because, again, as we can do more and more testing in this country, you will continue to see the numbers rise, though, again, to a degree. I imagine this distancing, social distancing, and isolation, and people being quarantined for 14 days, or even people self-quarantining themselves, will definitely help lessen things. But again, as more test kits are able to be sent out and more people can get tested, we will continue to see that the numbers are a lot higher than we thought they were. And I mean, kind of, if you're paying attention, you already know that whatever the numbers are they're probably higher, just because there's people that have had it and couldn't get tested. There are people that had it and they just never went to the doctor because their symptoms were mild. So they just thought it might have just been a flu or a cold or whatever. So it's just like we already know the numbers aren't completely accurate as in terms of how bad it really is. But because of that, as we can continue to test, the numbers will only continue to go up. You see what's happening in Italy. Supposedly we're on the same track as them, but obviously we're a bigger country, so it's going to happen on a grander scale. But their numbers are just continuing to grow. See what's happening in New York. Their numbers are going up, obviously daily, but they're going up in large chunks every day. So it's just like that's basically going to be the entire country. I don't want to say the entire country because again, not every state's taking this as seriously as others are. I know some states don't even have stuff closed all the way because they're just like, we'll be all right. If some people gotta go, they gotta go. It is what it is. That's how some people are viewing it. That's not how you should view it. You shouldn't just allow people to perish just like because that's how life works. But again, it's kind of the way some people are operating. So I mean, that's not great. But yeah, so it's just like I said, from the GM's perspective, due to the fact that this is all kind of unprecedented, which is, I mean, it's been the word I've been using a lot on this podcast recently, and it's true. It's like what we're going through is not something any of us have experienced at any points in our lives, really, at least on this scale. Like, obviously, the bird flu in 2009 was similar just because a lot of people caught it, but like the mortality rate wasn't as high, I don't think. I don't know. It's hard to say for certain because people will tell you it was, and then people will tell you it wasn't. You gotta figure out who you go to get your statistics, because you can, again, that's the good and bad things about numbers. You can tweak them to say basically just about anything you want them to say. But yeah, so that's probably the closest thing. But even then, that was not nearly this bad. Nothing was getting shut down. People weren't, like, again, the hospitals weren't being overflown. Like I said, businesses were still running. People were still going about their daily life. If they just caught it, they caught it. Which I guess is a part of the reason why people think that we can just do that with this one. But based on projections and stuff like that, doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. So I wouldn't advise that. But again, I'm not the advisor. And I'm not a doctor, so it is what it is. But yeah, so I can see why they wanted to postpone the draft. But again, from the owners and the NFL perspective, it's like we don't really, like from our perspective in terms of putting on the show. Because again, Roger doesn't have to scout. The owners don't really have to scout. The analysts don't have to scout. I mean, well, the analysts do scout, but they don't, like, if they get a pick, if they're wrong about a player, all right, it is what it is. They're not going to cost a team games and end up getting fired over it. I mean, Mel Kiper, Tom Michelle, those guys are wrong on their mock drafts and on their Mike Mayock before he got the Raiders job. They're wrong about their analysis on players all the time. It's a part of being a scout. No one has a 100% hit rate. So it is what it is. But again, they're not going to be the ones getting fired over it. So I understand from their perspective why you'd want to do it. But again, from an owner and a league perspective, it's like, we can put it on, and just have people in different rooms or social distance or whatever you would need to do to be able to put the show on. You can put the show on, and then obviously again, this is like literally the only thing most people have to look forward to in terms of sports. Like I said, unless you're using like the League Pass or Game Pass to go back and watch old stuff, or just going through whatever programming ESPN or NFL Network or NBA TV has in their showing. This is the only new event that people have to look forward to at this point. And I think, like somebody said, or somebody tweeted out that it might do like Super Bowl numbers just because everybody's going to be watching just because it's something to watch. I don't think it's going to be that big, but I mean, it's probably going to be bigger than it normally would be, just because of the fact that like I said, there's nothing for us to watch right now in terms of like new sports. So just anything new, people are going to gravitate towards. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, just hopefully they don't postpone it. We'll see what happens. They still got a couple weeks to decide, technically. But from the league and from the owner's perspective, it sounds like they want to put it on. And unfortunately, the GM's just going to get outvoted on this one. That's kind of unfortunately how hierarchies work. The people at the top make all the decisions, no matter what the people below them think or say. Not, I don't want to say no matter, but in generally, the people on the bottom have some say, but not as much. And the people at the top make a lot of decisions, and that seems to be what the case will be here. But we shall see what happens there. So yeah. After this break, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how social media can sometimes be used for good causes. If you don't know what happened with the Sixers, and if you don't know what happened with Trevor Lawrence on social media today, I will inform you in a second, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, it shows the power when we can all come together on social media and use our powers for good and for the betterment of other people. It can really be a great thing. So we'll talk about what happened there right after the break, so stay tuned.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, let me run you through the Sixers timeline here, because it's when you saw it play out in real time, it's pretty funny. So, this is Tuesday. So Tuesday around noon, Woj tweeted out, Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN, if you don't know. But yeah, so Woj tweeted out, members of the Sixers coaching staff and front office on contracts have until Thursday to agree to a 20% salary reduction, sources tell ESPN. Among many so far, there's apprehension on committing to giving money back, especially with uncertainty surrounding employment futures. So like I said, that was from noon. And then he quote tweeted that, and this was around noon. This was at like 12:10, 12:11. Only at-will employees over like $500,000 a year that they make are required to accept the salary reductions. Those under contract are needed to volunteer to do so. Well, I mean, obviously, because the ones making under $50,000 aren't that they would never give it back, and just because again they're not making that much money, and the over $50,000, I guess in theory, could afford it, but at this time where no one's really working like that, and things are so uncertain, and like if you get the test, like the stuff's going to be so expensive for all the medical treatments or whatever, and not just with coronavirus. That's like the biggest issue with this, is that obviously that's what everybody's focused on, but it's not like all other diseases and ailments and illnesses are just stopped. Like there's still other things going on that people need medical attention for, and obviously now that's having to take precedent over these other things, and that's part of the reason why flattening the curve is important, because so the hospitals can get backed up and everybody can get to whatever treatment it is necessary. Because now basically you have to avoid the hospital unless you're in like a dire situation, because they're not gonna care for you. But yes, that was at 12:11, and then later on he tweeted around 1:15. Other NBA owners are watching Sixers and weighing the PR fallout versus desire to do the same with salary reductions, including some considering furloughs, staff cutbacks, etc. No owner wants to log into Twitter and see his net worth trending after announcing this kind of news. So basically, the NFL owner, the other NBA owners were looking at what the Sixers did and seeing how the people reacted. And obviously, at a time like this, they reacted poorly. I mean, not when they didn't react poorly, I shouldn't say that. They reacted negatively towards it because, again, anything where, or I mean, it couldn't have been. It could have been. You could have picked any of the 30 teams, any company that's saying this. They're going to get bashed on social media just because we're in a time where people need money probably more than ever because a lot of people aren't working. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be able to work from home. Most of my family, my sister's in college, so she's like back home attending Zoom University. Not really, but you if you know about Zoom, you understand. If you have anybody that's in college right now, you understand what they're all going through. Or I guess if you just watch the news or whatever. So yeah, both my parents are working from home, so everybody's lucky in that regard. But again, not everybody is that lucky. Not everybody has jobs where working from home is feasible or makes any sort of sense. And even with that, some people have, if you're not going to be in the office, then they're just like, all right, we don't need as many people to do their jobs, so people are getting laid off. And that's another big issue, is that unemployment is going to rise to astronomical levels. I might have mentioned this already on the last podcast, but there was an article coming out of LA, I believe, where they, like, the number of, like, unemployment, like, claims was up to, like, 80,000 when it's normally around, like, 3,000 a day. It was up to 80,000 a day just because a lot of people aren't working because, again, they're getting laid off or they work from home, or I guess not necessarily laid off, but then they're maybe still on staff, but again, they're not given any hours just because there's no reason to go into an office to do anything, so they're just not, they have nothing to do, so then again, they're not getting paid. So that's the unfortunate situation. So again, any team that would have done this was going to get bad backlash, and unsurprisingly, the Sixers got bad backlash from this. And then at 154, Sixers ownership is planning to change course, pulling back on salary reductions for staff, league source tells ESPN. And then also the follow-up to that tweet, Sixers ownership in a statement to ESPN, after listening to our staff and players, it's clear that was the wrong decision. We have reversed it and will be paying these employees their full salary. Which, again, not surprising that happened. And again, this is all in the course of 2 hours. So, the first tweet was at 12:03, and the last tweet was with the statement was at 1:57, and he tweeted out the official statement at 2 o'clock from Josh Harris, founder of Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment, who owns the Sixers. Was one of the owners of the Sixers. I think they have a couple like major players in there, all worth over $1 billion. But again, they're much like a lot of other companies, funded and run by rich people. They're just like, all right, how can we cut back on costs if we're going to lose money with people not working? So even though we have more than enough money to be able to survive any sort of deficit that we may have, how can we trim our losses? And Sixers were no different, and then obviously when it happened, they got the backlash for it. So not surprising, but just funny how quickly, like literally within 2 hours, they were like, we're going to do this. Everyone was like, this is terrible, why'd you do this to people? And like, it's like, we're not going to do it anymore. And it's just like, and I guess the funniest part about it all was in this same time period, Joel Embiid, I forget, I know it was official. I'm trying to see if he tweeted it out first. Or, no, well, he tweeted out that he was happy with the statement that the Sixers organization did a 180. If you know about that reference. In terms of like deciding to not take away money from the workers. But again, I guess Ramona Shevlin tweeted out, this was 11:45, so it's like right before the Sixers decided they were going to cut the salary of some of their workers by up to 20%. Ramona Shevlin from ESPN tweeted out that Joel Embiid has decided to pledge $500,000 to COVID-19 medical relief to help survival and protection efforts in the community, and he's committed to helping Sixers employees who will suffer financial hardship in light of the franchise's salary reductions. So while the owners are asking players to cut their salary. I guess we'll take that back. The salary reduction stuff, I guess, stems from, it went back as to Monday. I think is when it was, like, Monday night was when it was, like, officially leaked out that's what they were going to do. And obviously this was just expounded on it more today. So I guess this was in place for a little bit over a couple hours. Let me just say that. But again, it came out like late last night. People might have missed it. Late Monday night, not last night. Monday night. But yeah, so while that's happening, Joel Embiid's like, hey, I'll take care of the workers and I'll help efforts in the community. While again, the billionaire owners who could be doing the same things are like, let's try to cut our losses here and have our employees take less money when we know they need it the most right now because they're not working. It's just funny. As we talked about this before, but just how like players were willing to do this, like whether it was obviously Joel Embiid, but like Zion, staff was willing to do stuff. Like players across all leagues are willing to donate and do things, while the owners are either hesitant to do things or they eventually came around. I know Mark Cuban was one of the first on this, and I give him credit for being at the forefront of this stuff because again he was on top of this very early. A lot of people have followed his lead, the Nets. Some other people have followed his lead. Obviously, there's a lot of teams around the league doing this, but then there's teams like the Sixers who are trying to cut the salary of their workers because again they're not working. So they're like, why are we paying you? And again, because they're not working, they need the money now more than ever. It's not like it's not like there's a national or a statewide thing for most states where there's like mortgage payments have stopped, rent payments have stopped. I thought the president tried to put a stop on interest on student loans, but it's not like they just like canceled them. Like you still have to, or at best they like deferred them. So like you still have to pay it back later. That's what a lot of the rent things are. It's like there's like a rent freeze, which just means you pay it back again once you have the money. But now you owe like 3 months worth of rent. At best, that's assuming it didn't last. This doesn't last 5, 6, 7 months. So yeah, it's all a mess. But just funny how as this is happening with the Sixers ownership trying to reduce the salaries of the players, their own player is talking about, I'm willing to give money not only to my community but also to the employees themselves that are hurt by this. So it was just a bad PR all around. And then I don't think we'll see any other team put out anything like this because they see what's going to happen when they do. People aren't going to like it because again, why would you? You're harming the low people in the country. No one. I mean, I'm not gonna say everyone cares about the little people, but again, a scenario like this where it's bad, they're gonna care about the little people. So that also kind of ties into the NCAA, who the NCAA didn't, but now they said they will allow Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence to go forward with his fundraising efforts to help victims of the coronavirus pandemic. Lawrence and his girlfriend Lance launched a GoFundMe page on Monday to help raise money for family relief and support for coronavirus. When Clemson compliance officials learned about the page, they asked Lawrence to deactivate it based on their interpretation and enforcement of NCAA policy, which does not allow the use of name, images, or likeness for crowdfunding. But the NCAA issued a statement Tuesday that said it would make an exception during the coronavirus outbreak for student-athletes who want to raise money to help. And that was just funny. Because, like, honestly, when it came out, like, oh, Trevor Lawrence is cool, doing a nice thing, the next thing you know, it's like, NCAA puts a stop to this, and like, oh, of course, everyone throws their hands up, and like, oh, same on NCAA. Even in the middle of a crisis, even in the middle of a pandemic, you still have to be the NCAA. And then, obviously, everyone attacked them on Twitter, and then, what do you know, within a couple hours, NCAA is like, actually, you're good, Trevor Lawrence, and anyone else can do it if they want. Don't come for us, please. We don't want to get, I mean, obviously the NCAA can't get canceled, but you get the point. We don't want to get attacked on social media. We saw what happened with the Sixers. Please don't do that to us. Please, we beg you, we'll let Trevor Lawrence do whatever he wants. And I'm just saying, sometimes bullying on social media works. Sometimes it does. When you use it for the right reasons, I should say, because a lot of people get bullied and quote-unquote canceled on social media for things that maybe they did when they were younger. Not to say that makes it, I would never support anyone that whenever like someone's tweets or whatever come out and you see them saying things that they shouldn't have said, and obviously aren't appropriate to say now and definitely weren't appropriate to say then, people get canceled for that. It's understandable, but just like at the same time, if you had Twitter 8 years ago, a lot of people aren't different year to year, let alone 8 years back. And obviously a lot of these people, some of these people that these things were coming out on, they're like teenagers at the time, which again, no excuse. because you should know better at that age. However, you're a kid, you make mistakes. But again, they're being penalized as adults for the mistakes of them as a child, which is a little different. If you're an adult when you do this, all right, then I have no sympathy for you. But as a person who's not that old, whenever people go back and look up old people's tweets just to try to cancel them whenever they're like unhappy or whenever they have some level of success, it's always kind of weird to me. But it is what it is. It's kind of the nature of social media. But again, when I say we use our powers for good instead of evil, we can do we as a people and a group on social media can do some good things. And this is one of those good things in terms of we can get the NCAA to be like, hey, let Trevor Lawrence be able to fundraise for families in need, and obviously let's bully the Sixers ownership into being like, hey, pay your workers. Like, it shouldn't be that hard. You guys are billionaires. And it's not just like one guy, so there's a group of them, so they collectively have billions and billions of dollars. They can afford to pay these employees that aren't getting paid nearly what these guys are worth. But yeah, it was an interesting day on social media in that regard, just because, like I said, sometimes our powers and the powers of social media can be used for the right reasons, and today they were used for the right reason in terms of helping to make sure that everyone is taken care of as much as they can. Obviously, we can't do this with every single company, though. I mean, people have tried, but you can't do this with every single company in the country. But for the ones that put out statements, we can definitely. I mean, same thing happened with again, it's not sports, but with GameStop. Like, GameStop said that they were an essential thing, so they were still having people work, and everyone was like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And then next thing you know, now GameStop's closing their stores because they got bullied via social media. Again, sometimes bullying works, people. Sometimes it works. Mainly when it's billion-dollar corporations bullied into giving their workers basic human rights and needs. That's when bullying is at its best. But yeah, so interesting day on social media, to say the least. But after we come back, we're gonna discuss. Yes, after this next break, we're gonna come back here and discuss the Olympics. What we talked about happening, potentially could happen for weeks, has officially happened. So we'll talk about what that is and what that kind of means and where the Olympics go from here and how they handle this new change. So, like I said, we'll discuss all of that right after the break. So stay tuned.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
We are back with our GSMC podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. And yep, what we all kind of figured and thought and assumed would happen has officially happened. The Tokyo 2020 Olympics officially postponed until 2021. Again, this article from ESPN. Never before had Olympic Games been postponed or canceled for something other than war. But rarely has the world that sounded weird when I said that. Rarely has the world come to a grinding halt the way it has over the novel coronavirus. When what felt like the last major sporting event untouched by the current strand of coronavirus known formally as COVID-19, the 2020 Olympic Games served as a glimmer of hope for the entire globe. But on Tuesday, Japan Prime Minister Shinzo Abe a B, not exactly sure, and the International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach, regardless, again, agreed to postpone the Tokyo 2020 Olympics by 1 year. The opening ceremony had been planned for July 24th. Despite the postponement, the Summer Olympics, when they eventually happen, will still be called the Olympics and Paralympic Games Tokyo 2020. The Olympic flame will remain stored and displayed where it is currently held. The President and the Prime Minister of Japan have concluded that the Games must be rescheduled to a date beyond 2020, but not later than summer 2021, to safeguard the health of the athletes, everybody involved in the Olympic Games, the international community. They said in a joint statement, according to the statement, the World Health Organization had consulted with both parties on Tuesday about what is called the accelerating pandemic. There are now over 390,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 worldwide, with more than 17,000 deaths. Nearly every country has been impacted. The decision comes less than 48 hours after the IOC said it would be giving itself 4 weeks to make a decision, as coronavirus continued to spread in recent weeks. Bach and the members of the Japan's government insisted the games could go forward. Sunday's statement was the first on-the-record acknowledgement that a postponement could actually happen. Pressure from nations obviously was mounting. Canada had already said it was dropping out. Australia later said that they would join. And, so, like I said, it has officially happened. The Olympics had never been rescheduled for something other than war. In 1916, 1940, 1944, the Games were canceled because of the World Wars. In addition to the impact on the athletes whose lives have now been upended by the decision, the financial impact will be staggering. The organizers of Tokyo 2020 estimated the cost to be roughly $12.6 billion, while their experts have put the figure closer to $25 billion. The delay will also impact the billions spent by sponsors and broadcasters. The IOC and Tokyo organizers said they hope the decision to postpone will help the world heal from the pandemic. The leaders agreed that the Olympic Games in Tokyo could stand as a beacon of hope to the world during these troubled times, and that the Olympic flame could become the light at the end of the tunnel in which the world currently finds itself. So, like I said, it was something that we all figured and kind of knew was going to happen. It just hadn't become official yet, but now it is officially official, and we will be getting no Olympics this year, at least. Like I said, assuming that nothing new comes around this time next year, we should at least be having it next year, which is, again, not a bad alternative. At least it's not like it got outwardly canceled. That would be a completely different scenario if it just gotten completely canceled. They didn't do that, which again makes sense because they spend too much money on this for it to just be completely canceled and on the opposite end of that spectrum, or not on the opposite end of that spectrum, but it's on the other side of things. These athletes have obviously worked hard to get in shape and get ready and qualify for the Olympics. So just for them to now, especially when like a lot of these Olympic sports, like not everybody is able to do more than one Olympics. So if you miss out on this one, then you might not have a chance to get in another one. So again, at least now these people will still have the chance to get in the one next year. But like I said, there was no way. I mean, like I said, I guess they said they were going to give themselves 4 weeks, which again I guess would have been giving them time to assess, see how the world is handling it, see if it's getting better, see if it's getting worse, and then decide from there. But then I guess obviously when they talk to the World Health Organization, I believe is what it was. Let me just double check that for you guys. It was the World Health Organization, right? Yeah, the World Health Organization. I guess when they consulted with them, they were like, "Yeah, no, this isn't getting better anytime soon, dog. Like, just you might as well just slide that thing over to next year." And again, this is what I thought was going to happen. I'm not surprised at all. It was just kind of just like when officially is going to happen, and now it's official. It's officially official. So yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. There's no, like I said, there's no way to really know if we're in March, so in April, May, June, in like 4 months everything's going to be all right. Like there's no way to know that. Even if things are all right by like June, like then now all of a sudden like what are you going to do with like the qualifiers are supposed to happen. Like, I don't know exactly how every sport goes about qualifying for the Olympics, but I imagine some of the stuff was supposed to get done probably in these next couple months, if not already was supposed to have happened and got canceled due to the coronavirus. So, and then like they pointed out, like basically almost every country that would be involved is affected by this in some way, whether like not everybody is Italy or is China or is America in terms of like the number of cases, but there's almost no one untouched by this. And so then I'm saying with that, then that means that, like, again, it's not like it's just like a one-off. It's not like it's just like a this country's dealing with or that country's dealing with, and like maybe they won't be able to send people, which obviously would hurt the games if certain countries wouldn't be able to go. But again, the games would still go on as a whole. But again, if every country's affected, then there was no way, unless they were going to be able to clear this all out within the next couple months, and it doesn't sound like that's going to happen, especially with not everybody, not even just like in America, but just everybody over the world taking that seriously as they should or shouldn't. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know exactly how bad it is or like what ways it can be treated. I know some people like warmer weather helps like kill the germs faster and stuff, and then there's other stuff that's like unfounded about that. Some people say that's not exactly true, and there's like things out there you can take or do to help you, and it's like maybe it worked for some person, but it's not going to work for everybody, that kind of thing. So again, we're not going to know that kind of information for months. And obviously the Olympics will have either been about to start or will be starting by the time that happens. So the chances of that being able to go on as scheduled were basically slim to none for me. And obviously, as we can see, they are now none because they're getting pushed back a year. Now, I guess obviously they don't have to answer this question just yet, but my only thought would be, will this, I mean, I guess so, and this shouldn't affect the 2024 games at all. I'm not 100% sure where they are, but it doesn't sound like they've made any mention, at least in this article, and I guess we'll see if anything else comes out. But it doesn't sound like the 2024 games will be affected, which is interesting, because I don't know how long it normally takes to prepare for these things. So I'm just like, I got to see where 2024 games are, because if it's like a country where it's going to need a lot of whether it's constructions of arenas or stadiums or whatever for the Olympics, now they got one less year in order to be able to so that's in Paris, France. Interesting. Alright, so I mean, it's not like France is Los Angeles is the one in 2028. Ooh, I might have to try to get some tickets for that one when it's back in America again. But again, that's we'll see that's ways away, so not to worry about that. But yeah, so Paris is not, obviously France is a well-developed country and stuff, so they I don't know how much more addition they need to make, but obviously anytime you're planning for the Olympics, you're going to need time to get everything set up. So I'm saying I wonder if that's going to affect them at all, just because again, normally you have 4 years between, so now this time they will only have 3, and I guess like I said, I'm not sure how that will, or if it will at all, change anything. Because in theory you think it could, or even just from an athlete standpoint, like now these athletes have, I don't know exactly what the time off for these guys is. Cause obviously if you're playing the sport like basketball or whatever, like you guys are playing every year, don't have to worry about that. But I don't know, like maybe like the swimmers, the track people, or I don't know, water polo, fencing, wrestling, boxing, whatever, all the different sports that they have, curling, archery, like whatever. Maybe they take a year or 2 off in between, and then like they get themselves back right in that year 3, or maybe like a little bit in year 2, and then that year 3, then prepare for the 4th year to qualify and do all that stuff. Soccer, same thing. So now I wonder if gymnastics, I wonder how that'll change things now that there's one less year in order to qualify for stuff. Like, will that just, I wonder if that'll just speed everything up, and then obviously a lot of these guys want to be able to take that time for you. A lot of the sports, the Olympics is the pinnacle. Like I said, basketball, not really. That's really like the only major sport that's there that the Olympics isn't. I mean, obviously maybe soccer with the World Cup too, but I mean, Olympics and World Cup are basically hand in hand, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm not a soccer player, so I wouldn't know how they feel about it. But from my perspective, they're both like world stages. They both, you compete against other countries, not like in the NBA or the WNBA, where you're just competing against. I mean, you're competing against international guys, but they're all played within America. You're not going to Mexico and playing a team. You're not going to, well, I guess you are going to Canada for Toronto, but you're not going to like Italy to play a team or Spain or whatever. You're just playing all these teams in America, or maybe you do like a little bit in the preseason. Like the majority of the season isn't built around that. So, like I said that they don't. Obviously, it's still a cool moment. Like no one's gonna outwardly diss it, but it's just obviously not held in the same regard as the NBA Finals are and stuff like that. Well, like I said, in other sports it is. So this is what you're training for. And now there's, like I said, there'll be less time to do all that and less time to qualify, all that stuff. So I wonder how that will affect the training process or the people in the next, like I said, in the next go around. But like I said, we'll see how that goes. But it'll be interesting to see if it does. I mean, maybe they just go a bit back, business as usual. No one will even remember that they only have the 3 years in between. It might even be a talking point, just because everything's gonna go as normal. But again, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, like I said, we knew it was only a matter of time before they ended up postponing it. And then obviously, I always, no matter how long it takes, I always give people credit for doing the right thing. And the IOC and Japan, they did the right thing. It just didn't make any sense to have this, at least right now with the current state of the world. Obviously, again, you want to give people something to look forward to, like that's the cool aspect, but at the same time, you want to make sure everybody's safe, and having this would not have been safe for anyone involved. So, it makes sense why they are not having it. But yeah, so speaking of things not going on, the MLB season has not started yet, but that does not mean people aren't getting hurt. Yes, we have a new pitcher that will now need Tommy John surgery to go along with some others that have already said they need it before the season again even began. So I'm not sure exactly what they were doing to have this happen, but again, people get hurt at their homes and stuff all the time, so it's not like that surprising. But yeah, so like I said, new pitcher needs Tommy John surgery, and it just serves as a further reminder of the need to win when you reach that stage. So I'll explain what I'm talking about, I'll explain who I'm talking about, all that fun stuff right after the break, so stay tuned.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
So, again, MLB season supposed to start Thursday. Not going to happen, obviously. Coronavirus. Who knows when it'll start back up? May very well be June, July, later. Who knows? Like I said, there's really no timetable for this stuff. But that doesn't mean people aren't getting hurt. But yeah. So, this is from ESPN. Again, a lot of ESPN articles today. ESPN Jeff Passan is reporting that New York Mets pitcher Noah Syndergaard will undergo Tommy John surgery on Thursday. The end diagnosis of a discomfort Syndergaard had experienced before the suspension of spring training earlier this month. It would put him out for the entire 2020 season, with an optimistic timeline for return next April, and a conservative estimate more like 15 months out, which is around the All-Star break in 2021. It's hard to evaluate the impact on the Mets for 2020 since we don't know when the season will start or even if they'll have a season. So that part may look out if the Mets, like again, if they don't pack half a season or they even have to cancel the season in the whole, then he doesn't miss anything. So from a Mets standpoint, that's good. But then from a standpoint, obviously, no one wants that Tommy John surgery, though. Unfortunately, these days, as we as humans advance, many players are throwing harder and harder than ever. and that's not normally natural, especially since the throwing motion of in that way is already not natural for the body now. So now you're putting more strain on it, throwing harder, and like you're throwing all the sliders and all the off-speed stuff. Like I said, the elbow and the arm are not normally built to have that kind of stuff. The Mets, so from a Mets perspective, they still do have 5 potential decent starters, obviously with the cream of the crop being Jacob deGrom, two-time Cy Young winner, Marcus Stroman, Steven Matz, Rick Porcello, and Michael Wacha. The issues there are that Porcello wasn't that good in 2019, and neither was Michael Wacha. They had a 5.52 ERA and a 4.76 ERA respectively, and they allowed a combined 57 home runs in 300 innings. There isn't too much depth behind that. I mean, obviously, most teams don't have 8 quality starters, so that's not that surprising. They have some improving guys, and their upper level pitching in the minors is not really that great either, so it's hard to say for certain who will take his place. But obviously, like I said, those 5, you hope for the best, but obviously they were hoping to have the 4 of deGrom, Syndergaard, Stroman, and Matz, and then just hope one of Porcello or Wacha worked out, or just one of these young guys worked out, but now they have to rely on all of them, if not more. And like I said, losing Syndergaard also puts a lot of pressure on Stroman to step up as the number 2 guy behind deGrom in his 11 starts with the Mets. He had a 3.77 ERA, although his walk rate increased from 2.5 per 9 with the Blue Jays to 3.5 with the Mets. And also he's not a huge strikeout guy in this era, though he went up by almost 2 strikeouts per 9 innings once he got to the Mets. So the Mets defense, which doesn't exactly project as a strength, will have to perform better than it did in 2019. And Syndergaard as a whole has kind of had a weird career. His first full season in 2016 was terrific, 2.6 ERA and a league leading. I don't know what this stat is, so I'm not going to tell you. And also had a 29.3 strikeout rate. He had a 2.29 FIP. Don't know exactly what that stands for, but my MLB guys out there, you know about the advanced analytics, so you know what that is. So yeah, but he's been consistent like ever since 2016. He's had injuries. He had a torn lat when we missed most of 2017. I think he had the hand, foot, and mouth disease in 2018, along with a strained finger. Missed some time there. Missed some time with a strained hamstring in 2019. And he had a career best 32 starts and threw almost 200 innings in 2019. He also had a career worst 4.28 ERA and led the National League in earned runs allowed. And his strikeout rate dipped to 24.5. And out of 130 pitches with at least 100 innings, Syndergaard's strikeout rate ranked 39th. Good, but obviously not reflective of the stuff that people thought he would have after his early career success. And also, this including him, Syndergaard joins Luis Severino and Chris Sale as Tommy John victims. The spring flame-throwing Padres reliever Andres Munoz also underwent Tommy John surgery this week in 2017. Severino had the highest fastball average velocity among starters in 2018. Sale eased into his velocity but hit 100 miles per hour that summer, and from June through August 12th when he landed on the injured list, he threw 250 pitches of 97 plus while averaging 97.2 on the fastball. And you continue to go down the list of the 25 hardest throwing starting pitchers from 2018, 11 have had or have since had Tommy John surgery. It doesn't include Shohei Ohtani, who didn't throw enough innings to qualify, Lance McCullers, who missed out on the top 25, Yu Darvish, who was also not in the top 25, Michael Kopech, who was called up that year and lasted 4 starts before blowing out his elbow, and Denilson Lamet, and other high-end velocity guys who have had surgery as well. Obviously it's a long list. And obviously, in most cases, people are coming back from Tommy John surgery better than ever. deGrom had the surgery in 2010, and obviously he's been fine ever since. But again, you have to wonder if this will be a growing theme for these hard throwing guys in the future, just because, like we talked about, the arm's not built to sustain that kind of velocity or that sort of torque or whatever on the elbow. So again, is it just like a weird spurt, or is it just like a thing that's going to continue to happen? And like I've said, where guys come back and maybe continue to throw us harder, maybe they will ease off a little bit to kind of, like I said, ease the strain on their elbow. It's an interesting thing. And now, so when you look at some of the numbers, in 2019 there were 70 games in which a pitcher threw at least 115 pitches. Oh wait, okay. Oh, I should say, backtrack. Teams are doing a much better job than generation going in attempting to protect their pitchers, with starters making fewer starts and throwing fewer pitches per game than ever. Obviously, we've seen if you follow baseball, you've seen the thing about the openers and stuff, and obviously trying to give guys rest and not have them overwork themselves, especially in the playoffs. And in 2019, there were just 70 games in which a pitcher threw at least 115 pitches. In 2009, the total was 316, and in 1999, it was 780. So again, as we've gotten further and further along, we've realized that, hey, the strain on the arm is difficult to deal with, so we can't expect these guys to be able to do that on a consistent basis. But then at the same time, again, these guys are still throwing hard and still haven't had the surgery, so just one of the unfortunate side effects of evolution and pitchers getting stronger and being able to throw hard is that now more of them need time down surgery, but also with the advancement of modern medicine, that means that the time down surgery in theory is better, and then that they can recover and make a full recovery, and it's not like a career debilitating kind of thing. So we'll see what happens with Syndergaard. Obviously, we don't know if the MLB season is even going to start, so it may not even end up mattering at the end of the day. But if it does end up mattering, then obviously that's a rough situation for the Mets. I mean, they're already in a tough division with the Braves, who should be good again, the Nationals, who just won the World Series, the Phillies, who in theory should be better, and then you get yourself the Marlins, who aren't that good. But again, on paper, the Mets were projected to be competitive at the very least. And now, obviously, when you lose your number two, even though he wasn't that good last year, but you still lose your number two starter, that doesn't very rare does that help a team. So there's that. And then obviously you're relying on two guys in Porcello and Waka potentially who weren't that good last year either. So you hope that's just they can improve with a change of scenery, or as opposed to this just being kind of who they are now. And also, this kind of brings me back to the point of it's important to win when you get there, because I think, what was it, like 3 or 4, how many ever years ago when they had Syndergaard, DeGrom, Matz, Wheeler, and Harvey, they thought like, oh, they're going to be, I mean, obviously, money-wise, it was never, all 5 of them were never going to stay. That was not going to happen. But they thought like, oh, they're going to be set. They got like one of the best rotations. They could have one of the best rotations in the league in the future. Like they'll be good. Like everything will work out for them. And then like they made the World Series. Harvey was the best pitcher then. He basically like blew out his arm trying to win a World Series. It didn't work out. And then he was bad and hasn't really. I think he was all right with the Reds. I don't know if it was this past year or 2 years ago, but I think he's kind of hung around at least a little bit. But again, not the same guy. DeGrom's been great, so there's that. Syndergaard hasn't really improved since his first year in 2016. Matz has been up and down, inconsistent. And Wheeler was good in the second half of last year, which when you finally kind of put it all together. And I think he might have been even a good in part of 2018 too, but I know obviously he put it together mainly in 2019. And now obviously he's signed with a different team for big money on the Phillies. So again, he's not on the Mets either. So that's what? 2 of the guys aren't on the team anymore. One guy has time down surgery. One guy's obviously a stud. And then you got Steven Matz, who's just like an okay third or fourth starter. At this point, again, not to say he can't improve. That's basically where he's at right now. So it just goes to show, like, nothing's ever promised. And again, we've talked about this, and, like, that's the case in all sports. But you look at, like I said, you look at the Mets. They were supposed to have this amazing rotation set up for years and years to come. It, like, literally fell apart basically the next season. You look at, like, the Cubs. They're supposed to be the new dynasty. Haven't even gone back to a World Series since they won in 2016. They were talking about trading Chris Bryant this offseason, arguably their best player, well, one of their best players, between him and like Javi Baez and Rizzo and some other Contreras, some other guys. But one of their best players. They're talking about trading him because they don't want to pay him. You got the Dodgers, who can't seem to win. Can't seem to literally get to the big game all the time. Not the big game, but like, you know what I mean. Get there and just can't win. And then you got the Astros, who may have cheated. And then the Yankees haven't won one in a decade. So yeah, I'm just saying it's hard in sports. You need to take advantage when you get there. And again, I'm just talking about baseball. If you go through all the sports, you can see teams getting to reaching that pinnacle and then quickly falling off. Win or lose, they quickly going back to average. It's a very common thing. So I'm saying when you get there, you have to take advantage. And unfortunately, the Mets weren't able to take advantage. Now you've seen the fallout from that. They haven't even gotten close to going back to the World Series. And then, like I said, their rotation and their studs have all kind of fallen apart as well. So there's that. But yeah, it's one of those unfortunate situations where you would hope for the best, but unfortunately that hasn't turned out for the Mets. And again, you have to be willing, and not be willing, and you have to try your best as a team to take advantage of these opportunities when they present themselves. You don't know when they're going to come about again. Every team thinks, oh, we just got there, we'll be back. And the next thing you know, you're trading away your star running back not even 2 seasons after you went to the Super Bowl because he has arthritis in his knees. The LA Rams. I'll take that back. They didn't trade him. They cut him. Excuse me. They tried to trade him. They couldn't, so they had to cut him. Even worse. Even worse. But yeah. It's unfortunate for Syndergaard and unfortunate for the Mets, though. Unfortunately, if you are a Mets fan or a fan of the Mets, you're used to unfortunate things happening to your team, even before the season starts, in the middle of a pandemic when no one can even go outside or train and do anything. Somehow, and you don't even know if the season's going to be played, somehow one of your players found a way to have season-ending surgery before the season even began. Very Mets. Very, very Mets. But, I mean, what else would you expect? At this point, if you're a Mets fan, what else do you expect? It's unfortunate. But hopefully he can come back healthy, come back good, the arm will still be good, he'll still be able to throw hard, all that stuff. But yeah, it's just, like I said, it's unfortunate. And not even just him, like I say, Chris Sale, Severino, all these guys that have had to deal with this, hopefully they can come back healthy next season and pick back up where they left off. But after this, we're going to come back from our last break and we're going to discuss some players in the XFL. They're getting signed to NFL teams. We talked about how is the XFL going to be able to sustain success, and this is at least a step in the right direction for them. So we'll talk about who those players were, what teams they're with, and then also like why this will be, I believe, a good thing for the XFL moving forward. So yeah, we'll discuss all that right after this.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
So, we talked about if, like I said, we talked about how would you view the first season of the X-Files as a success, and obviously the season got cut short because of the Rona. So it's unfortunate for them because they only played 5 games, so they weren't able. Not everybody was able to showcase all this stuff, and there was obviously no playoffs, no champion, no awards, none of that stuff. But 5 games is a decent amount of film, so that gave these guys opportunities, and obviously with the league ending, they were given the opportunity to sign NFL deals if obviously they were deemed worthy. And some players have been deemed worthy. The first player to sign was, it was an obvious one, but it was none other than quarterback P.J. Walker from the Houston Roughnecks. He was officially the first XFL player to reach to reach a deal with the NFL, and he was one of their biggest names, and obviously their top performer. He signed a deal with the Panthers, who, again, makes sense. He was coached by Matt Rule at Temple from 2013 to 2016, obviously. They traded away Kyle Allen. I don't know if that's completely because they signed P.J. Walker, but they traded him away. Didn't feel like they needed him. Washington wanted him for whatever reason. But yeah, they traded him away. So now, like I said, it's they still have Teddy Bridgewater obviously there. So he's not going to be competing for a starting job though. Again, he could be competing for a backup role, and obviously having familiarity with Matt Rule definitely helps with that. But that one wasn't surprising, but again, it's a step in the right direction because not that I don't think the XFL's design or plan is to be like a developmental league or like a feeder league for the NFL, but you need people to view it as a viable option. Because at the end of the day, I don't think most of these guys want to be XFL stars; they want to be NFL stars, or at least NFL players. Let me not say stars because I don't know how much that'll happen. But again, they just at least want to be on NFL rosters, be able to play in NFL games, all that stuff. And if it is viewed as the XFL is a good way to help showcase their skills or maybe rehabilitate the thoughts or beliefs about them as a player, and that's good for the league because then you get better players. Obviously, you're not going to get like the cream of the crop of the NFL because that's like obviously that's not the point. But if you have like guys that have been on practice squads but then don't feel like they've been given the chance to showcase their skills, maybe like a P.J. Walker or some of the other guys or somebody else, obviously, because obviously P.J. Walker, I don't think will be back in the XFL next year, but somebody like that who feels like they have the skill set or the ability, they just need a platform to be able to show it off. The XFL can be that platform for those guys. So you have guys like that that can come in, show out, and then obviously move on. Which, I mean, again, I'm not sure exactly what the plan for the XFL is in terms of how they want to grow their players or their stars, if you will. But like I'm saying, if the NFL teams, executives, front office people, or whatever are watching the XFL games, obviously you want more than just them, but that's at least a good sign because you know that means the quality of football is at a good enough level. Because even with the AAF, there was still a lot of, I think I read an article, there was over like 80 guys that signed once the league kind of disbanded. Obviously that was close to the training camp, so it makes sense to some people just needed camp bodies. And obviously not many of them stuck around with teams. But just seeing that people, and especially this early, it's not even April, this is March. This is basically free agency still. And you have, I think, at this point, like 4 or 5 guys in total that have signed. I think that's good for the league. That's showing that, all right, some of these guys have shown things that warrant being on NFL rosters, potentially. Obviously, we don't know for certain, but P.J. Walker is definitely one of those guys, so shout out to him. I'm surprised no one has taken, I mean, obviously it's still early, there's no rush, but Cam Phillips, obviously his main receiver, I don't think it's been signed yet, but I don't know who else. There was a cornerback from Houston as well, Dietrich Nichols, reached a deal on Monday, and he's signing with the Saints. Jordan Tiamu, the quarterback from St. Louis, is signing with the Chiefs, which makes a little bit of sense. Obviously, he's not ever going to supplant Patrick Mahomes, but again, the styles of play are, I don't want to say similar, but he's a big guy, he's athletic, can move around, has a big arm. Again, not Patrick Mahomes, but again, he's a young guy, but also for a guy like Andy Reid or something like that, like he's probably not going to be the main backup, but he's a guy you could try to grow and develop and then trade away, like a Jimmy G, or there's other teams. There's always teams in need of good quarterback play. So if you can maybe develop Tiamu a little bit, he might be worth either A, it might be worth keeping around as a backup because again you need a backup quarterback. You can't only have one quarterback on the roster. Or B, it might be good enough to then trade away and get a decent draft pick back for. obviously, you won't know for the time, but again, he was another guy. I believe my dad said that the Giants signed like a corner from, I think he said Seattle, I'm not sure. I believe the tight end from Dallas, the big guy, Parham, I think he signed with the Chargers. So yeah, again, there's been a few different guys at this point that have now signed deals with NFL teams, and like I said, I don't think that's a bad thing for the league, and obviously it'll only continue to grow, in my opinion, from there, because obviously, like I said, it's still early. There's no real rush to sign these guys just because they have a lot of time, and there's no real off-season camps, so they really only need guys for training camp, because not they're going to be doing OTAs or mini camps or stuff like that. But yeah, it's just like it's a good thing for them to be able to have guys that people want to go after. Because again, if they're in order for, I mean, again, the XFL is never really going to be a threat just because they don't have the money and the backing that the NFL has, and nor do they have like the level of talent. They're not getting those type of guys. Though, again, if the league is good enough, maybe they could get like good level college guys that want to like, hey, let me leave college, drop out of college after like sophomore year, which I wouldn't recommend, because you still want to have some foundation of education just in case the NFL doesn't work out, which it doesn't for a lot of people. You want to have a backup plan. You can't put all your eggs into the football basket, but most people do. But yeah, so this could be used as an alternative, like a guy like Tiamu, who like obviously he just didn't have an extra year of eligibility. But he's only like 22. Like it's not like he's an old guy. I mean, Walker's only like 25. It's not these are like old guys. These are guys still fairly young and early in their careers. And Tiamu, obviously, he was like fresh out of college. He hadn't even gotten to the pro level yet, but he was trying to show people like, hey, I have at least have a skill set that's worth looking at or worth trying to mold or fix. And obviously, he was able to parlay it to a deal with the Chiefs. So I'm saying if you can get those type of guys too, if you can get some of those, like I said, those sophomores that are like, I don't need to play another year of college, but so let me play a year of football where I'm at least getting paid. Though again, it's not till April, or not till spring. So I don't know how that would work. Because, well, I guess what the training camp starts with like November, December, something like that, I believe, for those guys. So then I guess you go through that your third year, go through that fall semester, graduate if you wanted to, if you can. Obviously, some people graduate early. Not everybody, but some people do. But then obviously you can do that, then you'll be good, and then you can just start back up. Then you'll be eligible for the draft, I believe. That coming season. I don't know exactly how the rules would work with that. I think you just need to be like 3 years removed from high school. So if that is the case, then yeah, then they'll be good. And then also you can play a season. Obviously not that many games, but you'll be able to play against bigger guys that have been to the league, guys that are trying to get back to the league. So it's the intensity is ratcheted up a little bit. And then also, you can get paid. So instead of playing a third year for free at college, and then obviously if you get hurt, then it's just like whatever. At least even if you still get hurt, because it's not like people didn't get hurt in the XFL, but at least you're getting paid to do it as opposed to doing it for the free. Which is what I'm saying. That's probably the next step for those guys in terms of the XFL, just trying to find those guys that maybe are on the college, budding college, or that maybe want to get paid and trying to take some of them, but for now, I feel like having guys that the NFL wants, and not just like I said, not just like for camp by the people that could actually be contributors or maybe potentially make NFL roster. That's kind of what you want, because you want it to be viewed as a viable sport, a viable football league. Whether that's again from the NFL, or just from the players themselves that are those borderline guys that don't stick around with teams that just feel like they need their moment, they need their chance. If they feel like the XFL can give them that chance, then that's going to improve the league, because then you have better quality players. If you're just getting the castaways and the sign-offs and the guys that are just free agents and aren't with any team and just working out on their own, that's not going to be good enough to sustain a league for years and years. And like I said, I don't know what their main goals. I don't know if they want to compete with the NFL, because again, that's going to be too hard. But if they want to at least be a quality product, they're going to need to show that the league is worthwhile to be a part of. And again, like I said, having guys make it to the NFL level and again, hopefully stay with teams. So just getting brought into a training camp or a mini camp or whatever That's cool, but again, the AAF had that. And obviously they're not going to come back ever. I don't want to say ever, but not anytime soon, I don't think. We'll see. What I'm saying is, since you don't have that, you want to have a situation where guys want to be a part of it. And again, if they feel like this can be a springboard for them to get to the NFL, and again, like I said, I don't think the XFL wants to be a feeder or gateway league for the NFL, but in the early stages, this might just what it have to be until it gets its own legs, its own identity. And then obviously it can do its own thing from there. But for the time being, it might just need to be that feed or gateway league. And then, like I said, if you get players that believe that can happen for them, they just need this can be their opportunity to showcase themselves, and they'll want to play. And then obviously, like I said, you have a better product. And then the next step would be hoping to go down to Cotton and get some of those guys. I think that's probably where I would look for next. We'll see. Obviously, maybe I'm assuming the XFL heads have already discussed these kind of things. I'm not saying anything I don't think they wouldn't have already thought of, but that would be my next area, try to get some of these. I don't know if you can get the elite college prospect, but get like a well-recognizable, well-known college prospect to play in the league. That'd be the next step for them. But like I said, cool for those guys. We're probably obviously going to see more of those guys get signed and be a part of teams and hopefully stick with teams, because again, that's the main goal. You want to have these guys be able to be on these rosters, because again, not just being a part of the 90-man roster in the offseason is cool, but being a part of the full 53, even like the 40, I think it's up to 48 now, game day roster, whatever it was in the new CBA, that's the goal for all these guys. So hopefully they can use the XFL as a platform in order to get to that level. But yeah, that'll do it here for me today on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast. And I want to thank you guys for listening. As always, I want to take this time to remind you guys, wash your hands, don't touch your face, cough into your elbow, sneeze into your elbow, social distance, isolate yourself, quarantine if you feel sick. Hopefully, you're living in a state where you have the ability to get tested if you need to get tested, just to make sure you don't give it to anybody else, or even if you have given it to anybody else, you know now and you can stop giving it to people. All that stuff. So then, like I said, we do, like I said in the last podcast, we do what we have to do so that we can do what we want to do, and this will be over sooner than later. Not that it's going to be over next week, but it'll just be over sooner, because that's what everybody wants us to go back to their normal life. All right, we're going to need to do some things in order to go back to our normal life. We're not just going to be able to do whatever we want, because then instead of like thousands of people dying now, millions of people are going to die, and it's all fun and games until somebody you know or somebody you're close to. And then that'll get people to start taking it seriously again. But unfortunately, until it happens, a lot of people will just be out there all willy-nilly thinking it's just not that serious. But again, once it happens to someone you know or you're close with, I think that'll hopefully be a wake-up call for some people. You don't want that to come to that, but maybe that's what it's going to take. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So yeah, stay inside. Hopefully we can get through this sooner than later. So like I said, stay healthy, stay safe, all that fun stuff. So, just want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop our latest stuff. If you please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. Very appreciated, very helpful. I'll see what you guys like, what you guys didn't like, ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. And if you're on social media, we're on social media, so we can talk there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can, like I said, we can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. We can help each other get through this very trying time, because again, we now have accepted that there's no sports, but that doesn't make it any easier to get through. So we can do this together, and hopefully we can get through it, and we'll be able to keep ourselves entertained until sports are back in our life. But yeah, that'll do it for me here today. I have been Chris Blades. That has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.